You know what's crazy? There are people making $40,000 a year who eventually build six-figure investment accounts. And there are people making $150,000 a year who never even reach $20,000 invested. Like, think about that for a second. Two people. One earns almost 4 times more. And somehow, the lower-income person ends up wealthier. Now, if you've ever looked at your bank account near the end of the month and thought, where did all my money even go? Or maybe you've opened your investing app, saw your balance sitting at like $3,842 after years of trying, and immediately closed the app because it just felt discouraging. Yeah, that's literally most people. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most people don't fail to reach $100,000 invested because they're lazy. They fail because they accidentally build a lifestyle that makes wealth mathematically impossible. And the scary part? Most of them don't even realize it's happening until they're 45. Because reaching your first $100,000 invested is not mainly about intelligence. It's not about finding the perfect stock. It's not even about making huge money. It's about behavior. And today we're going to break down exactly why 90% of people never get there. The math behind it, the psychology behind it, and the tiny financial habits quietly destroying people's futures without them noticing. Because once you understand this, your entire view of money changes. My name is Leonard, and I spend way too much time thinking about the why 90% of people never reach $100,000 invested. If you're someone who feels like no matter how much money you make, you still can't seem to build real wealth or grow your investments fast enough, make sure to hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Look, here's the thing. People massively underestimate how important the first $100,000 is. Not because it's some magical number, but because it's the point where money finally starts helping you. Before $100,000 invested, it feels like you're dragging a broken shopping cart uphill. Every dollar requires effort. Every setback hurts. Every emergency wipes out months of progress. But after $100,000, the math changes completely. And Charlie Munger once famously said, "The first $100,000 is a but you gotta do it." And honestly, he was right. Because according to Federal Reserve data, a huge percentage of Americans have less than $10,000 saved for retirement. Millions have almost nothing invested at all, which means the problem isn't lack of information anymore. We live in a world where investing information is literally free. You can learn index funds on YouTube in 15 minutes. You can open a brokerage account from your phone while sitting in traffic. So if information isn't the issue, why do most people still never make it? Well, there are 5 major reasons. And the first one is probably the biggest financial trap in modern society. 1. Most people increase their lifestyle faster than their income. This is where it gets really interesting. Most people think wealth comes from earning more money, and it doesn't. Wealth comes from keeping the gap between what you earn and what you spend. That gap, that's the entire game. But here's what most people do. They get a raise and immediately upgrade their life. New apartment, new car payment, more subscriptions, nicer restaurants, more Amazon packages, better vacations, more treating themselves. And look, none of those things are evil individually. The problem is that people unconsciously train themselves to spend every future raise before it even arrives. Let me show you how dangerous this gets. Imagine 2 people. Person A makes $50,000 a year and invests $800 a month. Person B makes $100,000 a year and invests $200 a month because their lifestyle expanded to match their income. Who becomes wealthier? The lower income person. And it's not even close. At an 8% annual return, investing $800 a month for 20 years becomes roughly $470,000. Investing $200 a month, around $117,000. Same economy, same stock market. Completely different outcome. Here's the scary part. Lifestyle inflation is almost invisible while it's happening. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to sabotage my future. It happens slowly. A few $100s here, a financing plan there, a small monthly payment, and suddenly your income is permanently attached to obligations. Now you need the paycheck. This is why so many high earners still feel broke, because they built expensive lives instead of investment-producing lives. And psychologically, this makes sense. Humans adapt incredibly fast. The new car becomes normal. The nicer apartment becomes normal. The expensive habits become normal. What once felt luxurious starts feeling necessary. That's called hedonic adaptation. And it quietly destroys wealth building. 2. People think small investments don't matter. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Leonard, but investing small amounts barely does anything. This belief alone keeps millions of people poor, because humans are terrible at understanding exponential growth. Our brains are built for linear thinking. If I hand you $1 today and $2 tomorrow, you understand that immediately. But compound growth? That feels fake at first. Let's do simple math. If you invest $500 a month starting at age 25 and average an 8% return, by 65, you'd have roughly $1.75 million. Not because you invested millions. You personally contributed around $240,000. The rest came from time and compounding. That's the part people don't emotionally understand. Your investments eventually begin working harder than you do. But because the beginning looks slow, most people quit before the interesting part happens. And honestly, the beginning is boring. Your first $10,000 feels painfully slow. You invest for months, maybe years, and the account barely moves. Then one good market week happens and you gain like $87. And you're sitting there thinking, that's it. But what most people don't realize is that investing is front-loaded with discipline and back-loaded with rewards. The early years are not about making money. They're about building the machine. And most people abandon the machine before it starts producing meaningful results. Imagine planting a tree and digging it up every week because it hasn't grown yet. That's basically how most people invest. 3. Debt quietly kills investment potential. Look, this next one is huge. Debt doesn't just take your money. It steals your future investment growth. And most people completely underestimate this. Let's say someone has a $650 car payment, $300 in credit card payments, $120 in buy now, pay later payments, a few subscriptions, and random monthly financing plans that can easily become over $1,200 per month, disappearing before investing even begins. Now imagine investing that $1,200 monthly instead, at 8% annually over 30 years. That's over $1.7 million. That's the true cost, not the interest rate, not the monthly payment, the opportunity cost. And this is where consumer culture gets dangerous, because modern marketing doesn't ask, can you afford this? It asks, can you afford the monthly payment? That single psychological shift changed everything. People stopped evaluating total cost and started evaluating monthly discomfort. And companies know this. That's why everything is framed monthly now. Cars, phones, furniture, luxury items, even vacations. Because $79 per month feels harmless. But 15 different harmless payments create financial paralysis. And here's the deeper psychological issue. Debt reduces your ability to tolerate risk. Someone living paycheck to paycheck with massive obligations cannot invest calmly during market crashes. Every downturn feels like a threat, which means debt doesn't only hurt mathematically, it hurts emotionally too. 4. Most people use investing emotionally instead of systematically. This one frustrates me the most. People treat investing like gambling and then wonder why they fail. They buy investments emotionally, they panic emotionally, they sell emotionally, and the market absolutely destroys emotional investors. Here's what usually happens. The market goes up. Everyone gets excited. People start buying aggressively because they're afraid of missing out. Then the market crashes, and suddenly those same people stop investing entirely because they're scared. Which means they do the exact opposite of what builds wealth. They buy high and stop buying low. And according to Dalbar studies, average investors historically underperform the market significantly because of emotional decision-making. Not because the market performs badly, because people perform badly. Here's what disciplined investors understand. Investing should feel boring. If your investment strategy feels exciting all the time, there's a good chance you're speculating instead of investing. Real wealth building often looks repetitive. Automatic deposits, index funds, consistency, patience, that's it. No dramatic predictions, no constant trading, no chasing trends. And I know that sounds less exciting than becoming a crypto millionaire overnight. But boring systems build rich people surprisingly often. Exciting systems usually create broke people with good stories. 5. People delay starting because they think they need more money. First, this is probably the most common excuse. I'll start investing once I make more. Sounds reasonable, right? Except most people keep moving the goalpost forever. First they say, I'll invest when I make $60,000. Then, when I make $80,000. Then, when things calm down. Then, after this next expense. And suddenly, 10 years disappear. Meanwhile, time was the most valuable asset they had the entire time. Here's a brutal comparison. Person A invests $500 a month from age 22 to 32 and then stops forever. Person B waits until 32 and invests $500 monthly all the way until 65. Who ends up with more? In many scenarios, Person A still wins or comes surprisingly close because of compounding time. That's how powerful early investing is. Time matters more than intensity. And psychologically, humans struggle with delayed rewards. We naturally prioritize immediate comfort over future benefits. Your brain loves food, entertainment, convenience, status. Your brain does not naturally love long-term compounding projections for retirement. That's why wealth building feels unnatural at first. You're fighting millions of years of evolutionary wiring. The real reason. Most people never reach $100,000. Now here's the deeper truth nobody talks about. Most people never reach $100,000 invested because they never fully become investors psychologically. They stay consumers first. Everything in modern society trains people to consume immediately. Ads, social media, status culture, influencer lifestyles. You're constantly told, you deserve this. Live in the moment. Treat yourself, but almost nobody says, invest first. And look, I'm not saying never enjoy your money. That's not the point. The point is that if every reward happens in the present, your future version of yourself gets nothing. Financial freedom requires delayed gratification. And delayed gratification is incredibly rare now, which is why wealth itself becomes rare. Here's what most people don't realize about $100,000. The journey to $100,000 is not linear. The first half takes forever. Then suddenly things accelerate. For example, at a 10% return, a $10,000 portfolio grows about $1,000 annually. A $100,000 portfolio grows about $10,000 annually. A $500,000 portfolio grows about $50,000 annually. That's when people suddenly look naturally wealthy, but they're usually seeing decades of invisible consistency. This is why wealthy people often seem calm financially. Their money produces momentum, and momentum changes behavior. Emergencies become manageable, choices expand, stress decreases. But the hardest part is surviving the slow years emotionally, because during the early phase, it feels like nothing is happening. The $100,000 roadmap nobody explains properly. So let's make this practical. How does someone actually reach $100,000 invested realistically? Step 1. Stop focusing on becoming rich quickly. Seriously. The obsession with fast wealth ruins people financially because it pushes them towards speculation, gambling, and unrealistic expectations. Step 2. Automate investing. This is massive psychologically. If you wait to feel motivated every month, you'll fail eventually. Automation removes emotion. Even $200, $300, or $500 automatically invested monthly creates momentum. Step 3. Increase your savings rate whenever income increases. This is critical. Every raise should partially upgrade your investments before your lifestyle upgrades. If your income rises by $1,000 monthly, maybe invest $500 of it immediately. That single habit changes entire financial futures. Step 4. Reduce recurring expenses aggressively. Not because minimalism is trendy, because recurring expenses steal investing capacity permanently. A one-time purchase hurts once. Recurring obligations hurt forever. Step 5. Focus on broad market investing consistently. Look, most people don't need complicated strategies. They need consistency long enough for compounding to matter. That's it, and this is where it gets really interesting. Once you cross certain thresholds financially, investing actually becomes emotionally easier because you start seeing visible progress. The account moves more, growth becomes noticeable, motivation increases, but most people quit before they ever experience this stage. A story that explains everything. I once heard about two coworkers. One constantly upgraded everything. New car every few years, expensive lunches daily, luxury apartment, designer clothes. The other guy looked completely average. Older car, simple lifestyle, brought lunch to work, invested consistently for years. Guess who everyone thought was wealthier? The first guy. Guess who quietly retired early? The second one. And that perfectly explains modern finance. People often confuse visible spending with actual wealth. But real wealth is usually invisible. It's ownership, investments, options, freedom, not appearances. And honestly, this is why social media has made financial comparison worse. You're constantly seeing people display consumption, not balance sheets. Nobody posts, "Hey guys, just maxed out my retirement account again." They post vacations and cars, so people start copying the wrong behaviors. The most important financial shift you can make. If you remember one thing from this video, let it be this. Stop asking, "What can I afford monthly?" Start asking, "What is this costing my future investments?" That single mental shift changes everything, because every financial decision has a hidden future value attached to it. A $400 monthly payment isn't just $400. Over decades invested, it can become hundreds of thousands of dollars. And once you start seeing money this way, your priorities change naturally. Look, reaching $100,000 invested is hard. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. The early years feel slow, sometimes painfully slow. You'll feel behind. You'll compare yourself to people spending more. You'll wonder if the sacrifice is even worth it. But here's the truth. Almost everyone who eventually becomes financially secure went through that exact phase. The difference is they kept going anyway. They stayed consistent long enough for the math to start working in their favor. And once it does, everything changes, because money stops being something you constantly chase and starts becoming something that quietly works beside you. That's the goal, not flexing, not pretending to be rich, not looking wealthy online. Actual freedom, the ability to breathe financially, to make decisions without panic, to survive emergencies without collapsing, to have options. And the beautiful part is this: you do not need to be extraordinary to reach $100,000 invested. You need consistency, patience, and the willingness to ignore a culture obsessed with immediate consumption. That's it. So if you've been feeling behind financially, good.